If you're a fan of the triple option, then the 2025 college football season might be for you. The Navy Midshipmen return a ton of talent and are going to be one of the better teams in the AAC, maybe even making a playoff run. We'll take a look at the top 10 players returning for the Midshipmen this year, as well as take a look at that schedule and see, is a playoff run actually in the cards? Now, when Navy's had success in the past, it's because their quarterback understands the offense and has been a wizard with the triple option. Blake Horvath is exactly what they need for this year to make a strong run towards that playoff to win the AAC. Blake Horvath is going to be a huge reason why they do that. And it's a different look for the triple option. When you've seen the triple option in the past, it's been run heavy. And while that's still very much the case, this is a team that finished 6th in rushing yards. Now, that might be a disappointment for Navy standards, but they threw for over 120 yards a game, and Horvath finished with a year with over 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns passing. He also ran for 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. So you're looking at a guy who can do a little bit of both. And obviously, it's still run focused, run centric, but this is still very much an offense that you have to prepare both ways for. And that's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. Now, some rule changes have played a factor in that, but Blake Horvath and this offense have adapted, and they're extremely explosive, and he is going to be really fun to watch. Teams know what he's capable of doing, and Navy is a dangerous team because he's back. Now, another guy to keep an eye on, and this is where the passing attack really stands out. Eli Heidenreich is another name to keep an eye on in this offense because of his ability to do both things, both running the football and catching the football. And honestly, 444 yards and 3 touchdowns is relatively pedestrian for Navy standards, but he averaged almost 7 yards per carry still. And that just speaks to the efficiency of this offense. The thing that's pretty mind-blowing is the 39 catches for 671 yards and 6 touchdowns. When you look at Navy's history, anytime they've had a receiver that has done a really good job, you're still not getting this kind of level of production consistently. And he's a running back. Now, they don't call him running backs with Navy, but we're going to keep it simple. He's a running back. The fact that he had over 1,000 total yards in Navy's offense and had more receiving yards than rushing yards speaks to the changes in this team, speaks to the changes of the triple option, and honestly, that makes him even more dangerous. Before we continue with the video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and take a look. It takes a couple of seconds. It helps the channel grow. We've seen tremendous growth in the last couple of years, and we'd like to keep that going. Doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to hit that goal this year, and you make that happen. But let's get back to the video. Now, another staple of the triple option is a really good fullback, and Navy's got that again. Alex Texa is a really interesting player for this team. 576 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. So not necessarily the most explosive, the most dominant fullback, but still a guy that can make a huge impact on this team. Also at 229 yards for a fullback. 229 yards. Granted, it's just 12 catches, but he averaged 19.1 yards per catch. That's pretty crazy. And that speaks to the changes in college football. And we talk about college football and how it's changing, but we don't really talk enough about Army and Navy, Air Force, how they've had to change and what they have done to change. And Navy has done a really good job of adapting. I think a lot of people expected Brian Newberry's stay to be a little bit shortened and he would be on his way out, but they have done pretty much the opposite. And it's the offense and their ability to adapt that has made them really exciting. When we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, this is the group that was definitely the weaker of the two, but still a solid group. And Luke Pierce is going to be a big reason why they continue playing at a high level. And the defense is going to have to step up. The offense appears to be set with what they will be able to do this year. They're going to run the football. They'll make explosive plays through the air. The defense has to step up in a big way as well. 68 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. A really exciting player plays that Raider position for this defense, and he is a really interesting player potentially at the next level. 6'4", 217 pounds. We'll see what he can do to follow up a really exciting year. Front, a very underrated player in Landon Robinson comes back. He's a first team All AAC selection. 61 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks. Again, the nose guard position, nose tackle position isn't going to get a ton of recognition purely based off of the lack of stats, but at the same time, you're looking at a position that is very impactful. They pretty much dictate the line of scrimmage in terms of if you're successful up front or if you struggle. And granted, the success rate for Navy last year was 41.3% defensively, and you'd like to see that improve a little bit, but that all starts up front. And there's a good group returning up front, maybe not as experienced as the last group, but still a group that has plenty of talent. Robinson does not get enough recognition for what he does for this defense, and guys like Luke Pierce are going to have a lot more success because he is eating up blocks and being disruptive. Flipping over to a guy who will probably go against Landon Robinson in practice is Ben Purvis. Honorable mention, all AAC player. And if you're going to run the triple option, you need an offensive line that is going to get the job done. And Navy consistently proves that they can do that. And this is going to be no exception this year. Ben Purvis is one of the more experienced players coming back. He's one of the more talented players coming back. And even though they have to replace a couple starters, the offense feels like it's in good hands. Another linebacker to keep an eye on is Jackson Campbell. Jackson Campbell played a really important role for this defense last year. 58 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. Did a little bit of everything. 4 passes defended, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. And this defense played lights out at times. And it was a very disruptive group. They finished 3rd in the country in tackles for loss. They finished 6th in sacks. So yes, the offense was doing its part, but this was a disruptive group. And if they can do that again, especially with the schedule they have, this is a team that can make some serious noise in 2025. The guy who will be lining up next to Landon Robinson is Griffin Willis. Griffin Willis, it has a really good opportunity in front of him because Landon Robinson commands so much of the attention. When you are a first team all AAC selection, people know what you're capable of doing. Griffin Willis is someone who probably will see some favorable matchups. And teams know that this was a disruptive defense. Willis was a reason why. And he's going to have opportunities to make even more noise. And if Landon Robinson is eating up blocks and getting a lot of that attention, Willis could have a monster year. Going back to the offense, kind of an underrated player, didn't have the production of some of the other guys, is Brandon Chapman. Brandon Chapman had a solid year for a rotational piece, and now he gets to step up and potentially play an even bigger role. 250 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, 257 yards through the air, 4 more scores. So it wasn't like he wasn't involved. It was more just you had other guys like Heidenreich, Texa, you had other guys that were able to play more of a prominent role. And granted, Blake Horvath and his production kind of took away some of the touches and the opportunities from other people too, which is not a bad thing. It's just someone has to have the ball. So this is an offense that skill position wise, they're in good hands. And you feel like if they're going to make some noise, it's because of the depth they have coming back, the talent they have coming back, the amount of guys that can make plenty of plays and do some damage both on the ground and through the air. And finally, we talk about Nathan Kent. And while we don't usually talk about Navy wide receivers, this is someone who did a lot with limited touches. And honestly, if you play wide receiver for one of these triple option offenses, hat tip to you, because you do not get a ton of opportunities. And Kent only had 10 catches, but he averaged 22.2 yards per catch. So even though he's pretty much going to be a blocker. And that's what you do when you go to Navy. You don't expect to catch 50 balls in a year. You just don't get those opportunities. And that changed a little bit with the change that they made offensively, but you're mostly going to have to prove that you can block. And now he has a pretty good length to him, 6'3", 180 pounds, a little bit on the lighter side. But again, you are going to be physical. You are going to be immersed in run blocking, and you will have to prove that you can do that. And that's how you get on the field. Nathan Kent knows that. And then when he gets his opportunities, he's proven that he can make things happen. Finally, we go to the schedule, and this is where we get to talk about a potential run. And when you look at, honestly, the over-under probably is going to be set at 10.5, maybe 10. When you look at this team, they feel like they're the front runner in the AAC, to me at least. This is a very talented team. You have the quarterback coming back, a quarterback that is extremely explosive. When you look at Navy quarterbacks, Keenan Reynolds, Will Worth, Malcolm Perry. You've had a number of quarterbacks that have done serious damage at the helm of this offense. And Blake Horvath is just the newest and the latest guy that's running the show. So you feel like you're in good hands. You feel like this team has the ability to potentially go 11-1. That's what I have the ceiling at. The one loss for sure is probably going to be Notre Dame. And I say probably because at this point, when you face them November 8th, Notre Dame is not going to get got at that time. They might stumble at the beginning of the year, but they are not going to lose in November at home. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see that happening. All the other games, Navy has a good chance of winning those games. And honestly, when you look at the schedule, there's really no reason why they shouldn't start 6-0. And really, there's no reason why they shouldn't be 7-0, potentially 8-0 heading into that Notre Dame game. And Notre Dame maybe will be undefeated. But if Navy starts undefeated, that's a ranked matchup. And that's huge. It's just going to be tough to win some of those games. And the fact that you go the last 5 games, we'll start with the 3-game stretch of at North Texas, at Notre Dame, USF. That's a challenging stretch. At North Texas could be a team challenging for the AAC crown. So that's going to be a tough game. Notre Dame is a potential playoff team. USF had a tough year in 2024, but they are going to bounce back. That is a tough game. Then you get a bye week. You finish the year at Memphis. Maybe you're playing in the AAC championship at that point. So then you're going at Memphis, AAC championship versus Army. That's not a easy stretch. And with a playoff bid potentially on the line, that maybe puts more pressure on you. So this is a team that's really exciting. I definitely think 11-1 is possible. I'm not going to rule that out, but it's going to be tough. And you have to have the amount of talent that Navy has coming back to make that kind of a run. If they put everything together, this has the making for a special season. It's going to be tough. Like I said, that ending stretch is not for the faint of heart, but Navy is a tough team. They have the right players coming back, and that has the formula for what could be a really special year.